I want to draw your attention to 2023 now. I'm sorry. Now I'm doing it. The fall of 2022, September of 2022.
Yes.
Did you receive a notice on Commonwealth letterhead indicating that you were not to destroy or in any way manipulate any data on your cell phone? Destroy the phone itself or to manipulate or destroy any data on that cell phone?
I do not remember getting that letter, no.
I'm going to read this for the record, Your Honor, if I may, with the court's permission.
Yes.
Did you receive a letter that said, in essence, not even in essence, it should be quoted as the following, quote, "You, Mr. Albert, are hereby notified that the defense in the case of Commonwealth versus Kieran Reed, Norfolk Superior Court, criminal case number 22-117, has filed a motion pursuant to Mass R. Crim P. 17 for the production of any cell phones that you used between January 28, 2022 and February 28, 2022, and or any data associated with those cell phones, period. The hearing on Ms. Reed's motion will be held on October 3, 2022 at 2 p.m. in courtroom 1 of the Norfolk Superior Court. You may be heard on the motion at that time. You are hereby placed on notice that these cell phones are the subject of pending litigation and you must not alter, delete, destroy, or in any way manipulate any of these electronic data associated with the cell phones at issue. Period, end quote. Did you receive a notice from the Commonwealth with that language?
I don't remember receiving that document, no.
Were you told in any other capacity that you were not to get rid of or delete your cell phone? In other words, preserve your phone.
Subsequent to me upgrading my phone, I spoke with the DA's office. So after that, they told me via a phone call that that was the case.
So your testimony is you never received the notice that I just read, but you did talk to the DA and he told you to preserve, you were on notice that you were to preserve your phone.
After.
I know you want to say that, Mr. Albert. My question is, did you have the conversation with Mr. Lowry?
Yes.
Okay. When was that conversation, sir?
So I don't have the exact date of the conversation. I'm not sure.
Who did you talk to on the phone exactly? Was it Mr. Lowry alone or was it a conference call?
It was a conference call.
Who else was on that conference call?
I believe Steve Nelson and other witnesses in the case were on the conference call.
Can you name those witnesses for us, please?
I believe it was Brian Higgins. I believe Jen McCabe, Matt McCabe, and maybe somebody else, but I can't recall.
Who initiated that conference call?
I believe it was somebody in the DA's office, so either Mr. Lally or Steve Nelson, somebody like that.
Did everybody just call into a central number, a conference line?
Yes.
And what exactly did Mr. Lally say to you during the course of that conversation about preserving your phone?
During the conversation, Mr. Lally said that the defense had filed a motion to ask for the phones to be preserved.
And anything else?
That's what I remember him saying.
Did you volunteer that, oh my goodness, I just upgraded my phone last week conveniently. I don't have that phone anymore.
No.
You didn't say that to Mr. Lally?
No.
You just took the information that he gave you and hung up the phone and went about your business?
Yes.
Without notifying him that the very phone that he had just ordered you to preserve had just been destroyed days earlier.
No, the phone wasn't destroyed. I upgraded the phone.
The data was destroyed, sir. Correct?
I did not destroy any data on any phone.
Mr. Albert,
I upgraded my phone.
when you upgrade a phone, you know that the phone is set back to factory reset before your new phone is handed to you, correct? Happens every time.
I don't know that.
So if you have personal texts with your doctor, personal communications with Mr. Henning, your lawyer, you're just going to hand that to a pimply-faced kid at Best Buy and say, here's my phone? You know that data is destroyed when you upgrade your phone, right?
I think some things are come over across contacts, things like that. So I don't know that for sure.
You can back up your data, sir, but the phone data is destroyed for all purposes. It's factory reset, correct?
I don't know that.
How long do you have a phone? That's an iPhone.
Years,
How many times have you upgraded your iPhone?
multiple times.
Every single time you upgrade it. You know that the phone prior, the data's destroyed on it, correct?
Usually my contacts come over and my photos come over. So
That's a backup.
no, I don't think I have that on backup, but okay.
Irrespective, you didn't tell Mr. Lally that you had gotten rid of that phone.
I was not asked that, and I didn't tell him that.
I see. You felt like if you weren't asked that, you didn't need to volunteer it, even though the conference call was specifically about preserving your phone pursuant to a judge's order. Correct?
What was the question?
You didn't offer to Mr. Lally that you had gotten rid of the very phone that he was telling you had to be preserved due to a judge's order.
I did not.
And you didn't seek any advice from, I'm not asking you for the communications. You did not seek any advice from counsel at that time for those purposes.
I don't believe I did, no.
May I have just one minute?
Sure.
At some point, you indicated, Mr. Albert, at another proceeding, under oath, in relation to a conversation that you had with Brian Higgins about your phone. Quote, I don't recall saying I was going to get rid of my personal phone to Brian Higgins. I may have said that, there's personal stuff on my phone. But I don't recall saying that to him, but I don't know. We had multiple conversations about things. Remember saying that under oath at another hearing?
Yes.
You literally admitted at that hearing there's personal, private data on that phone. Hence, you got rid of it, right?
No.
You certainly wouldn't allow some kid at the AT&T store to have your personal, private data. You're a cop.
No, I assume he doesn't have it
Why would you assume that?
because he took the phone and has it.
And what do you think happens to the data on the phone, sir? Let's just use common sense. What do you honestly think happens to the data on the phone when you turn it in and upgrade your phone?
I'm sure that the data's not there anymore. I'm sure.
It's destroyed, sir, correct?
I don't know that for a fact. I know that some things are transferred back to the new phone.
You just said, the data is not there anymore.
Some data, I guess, isn't. Yes.
No, that's all I have.
All right. Mr. Lally, any questions?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, I'm going to take a short recess. I want to let this witness, if he chooses to have a few minutes. All right, Mr. Jackson, go right ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Albert, you were notified by the Commonwealth that on September 23rd, 2022, a judge specifically ordered you to preserve that phone and all its data, the phone ending in 0888. Is that right?
Yeah, at what time are you asking me that I was notified?
That day or the next?
On the 23rd?
On the 23rd or the 24th of September?
No.
Isn't it true that you were provided a letter by the Commonwealth that stated the following? Your Honor, if I may read this.
Yes, there's no objection.
Thank you. Quote, you are hereby notified that the defense in the case of Commonwealth versus Karen Reed, Norfolk Superior Court criminal case number 22-117, has filed a motion pursuant to Mass R. Crim P. 17 for the production of any cell phones that you used between January 28, 2022 and February 28, 2022, and or any data associated with those cell phones. The hearing on Ms. Reed's motion will be held on October 3rd, 2022 at 2 p.m. in courtroom 1 of the Norfolk Superior Court. You may be heard on the motion at that time. You are hereby placed on notice that these cell phones are the subject of pending litigation, and you must not alter, delete, destroy, or in any way manipulate any of the electronic data associated with the cell phone at issue. You received, end quote, you received that notice on either the 23rd or the 24th. Is that right?
I did not.
Your Honor, I would pose a stipulation. I spoke with counsel off the record, if I may.
You both have a stipulation that I haven't seen?
We just determined I'm happy to approach it.
Why don't we approach quickly?
Madam, yes. I would offer the following stipulation that on either September 23rd or September 24th, the Commonwealth sent a letter on Commonwealth letterhead to Mr. Albert's attention, stating exactly what was just read into the record pursuant to the court order dated September 23rd, 2022.
Okay. All right, next question.
Thank you, Your Honor. Isn't it true that you were, in fact, ordered to preserve your cell phone by the Commonwealth?
At some point, I was made aware of that, yes.
All right, let's just get to the brass tacks. Where's your phone?
My phone was upgraded and traded in for a new phone.
Your phone was upgraded and traded in for a new phone.
Yes.
Okay. Another way to say that is you traded your phone in and got rid of it, correct?
I traded my phone and upgraded it, yes.
When did you get rid of your phone ending in 0888?
I upgraded my phone in September, third week of September, maybe around 22nd.
The 22nd of September.
I believe so. I can't be sure of the exact date.
So according to you, you got rid of the phone that was the subject of a court order preservation the day before it was ordered preserved, right?
Rephrase the question, please?
This order was just stipulated. This order is dated September 23rd, 2022. It was just stipulated that on the 23rd or 24th, you were then sent a notice to preserve the phone. And your testimony is on the 22nd, the day before this all happened, you upgraded your phone and got rid of it in total, correct?
I upgraded my phone on and around the 22nd, yes.
And you knew that all of the data on that phone would be factory reset and destroyed.
Objection.
Do you know that, sir?
I do not know that.
How many times have you upgraded your phone in your iPhone?
I'm not sure. 4 or 5 times, maybe.
You're aware that when you turn a phone in and you upgrade it, the phone that you turn in, that data is factory reset, meaning it's gone. It's destroyed off of that device, correct?
Well, I think some data transfers and some doesn't.
We're not talking about a backup. I'm talking about the physical phone. That physical phone becomes a brick when you turn it in, correct?
Correct that it becomes a brick? I don't know.
It becomes effectively a brick. There is no data left on the phone. I'm not talking about backup data onto a cloud. I'm talking about that phone.
So the old phone, yes.
Yeah, it's just everything on it's destroyed, correct?
Right, although some of the data transfers to your new phone.
And you're aware that the very data that you were ordered to preserve would have been destroyed, according to you, the day before. Correct?
Rephrase your question or ask me a question.
Are you claiming that you got rid of your phone on the 22nd?
I upgraded my phone around that. I'm not sure if that's the exact date, but yes.
So it could have been after the 22nd.
I don't think it was after the 22nd.
Could have been the 24th?
No,
Could have been the 25th?
no.
So you're absolutely sure that you could not have upgraded your phone and gotten rid of it anytime after the 23rd when this judge ordered that it be preserved?
No.
Because you know that if you got rid of that phone after you had been notified that you were ordered by a court to preserve it, you'd be committing a felony.
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
So you now claim that you got rid of the phone on September 22nd, 2022. Hours before you were ordered to preserve it. That's your testimony, correct?
Yes.
Is that just a coincidence?
September 4th was my birthday. The phone was broken and failing. I had planned on getting a new phone, and that just happened to be the day that I got it.
Happy birthday. Was that a coincidence?
Objection.
Sustained.
You were asked at another hearing in June of 2023 that exact question, correct? Whether it was a coincidence. You remember that?
I don't.
You recall being asked, quote, so it's just a coincidence that within minutes, hours, or days.
Objection, Your Honor.
Let's hear the question first.
Within minutes, hours, or days of you trading in your phone, that phone you had in January of 2022, that you were ordered to preserve it. Answer, yes. Question, that's a coincidence. Answer, yes.
Objection. Move to strike.
I'll let that stand.
That was your testimony, wasn't it?
Yes.
And that's what you're saying today to these jurors. Just
Yeah.
a coincidence.
Yes.
Did you and Brian Higgins agree with each other that you're both going to get rid of your phones?
Objection.
I'll allow that.
No.
You testified at the other hearing in June of 2022, quote, I don't recall saying that I was going to get rid of my personal phone to Brian Higgins. I may have said that. You know, there's personal stuff on my personal phone. I don't recall saying that to him, but I don't know. We had multiple conversations about things, end quote. Remember testifying to that?
Yes.
So you're not ruling out the fact that you may have told Brian Higgins that you intended to get rid of your phone, correct?
No.
You're not ruling out the fact that Brian Higgins may have told you that he intended to get rid of his phone.
No, I don't remember him saying that to me.
Your testimony was, quote, I know there were conversations about the phones. I just can't say if he was going to get rid of his phone or not, end quote. You testified to that, didn't you?
Yeah, I have no idea what he was going to do.
I'm asking, are those your words? Did you testify to that under oath?
Yes, although I don't know the context of the time that they were asking that question.
June of 2020.
No, not the date of the hearing, but when they were asking if and when that conversation took place.
Does it really matter? When it took place?
I think so, yes.
When you talked to Brian Higgins about getting rid of your phones, when do you think you had that conversation?
I don't think I talked to Brian Higgins about getting rid of my phones.
Well, you just said you can't rule out the fact that you had conversations with Brian Higgins about your phones and possibly getting rid of your phones. Right?
No, I don't think that's what I said.
You two discussed the fact that you both wanted to get rid of your phones.
I don't remember having that conversation with Brian Higgins at all.
Your testimony was, quote, "I know there were conversations about the phones, sir." Correct?
Correct that that's what you read?
So if you're having conversations with Brian Higgins about the phones, what the heck were you talking about?
I don't know the timing of when they asked when those conversations were.
Mr. Albert,
So
I'm leaving it open to you. I don't care when it was. I'm asking you, have you ever had a conversation with Brian Higgins about your phones, respectively?
we may have, I can't remember that conversation specifically.
Then why, in June of 2023, did you testify, "I know there were conversations about the phones" with Brian Higgins, end quote?
I'm not sure of the context of that.
So now you just can't remember.
No, I don't think I could remember during that testimony either. I think if you read the whole thing, I think I said I'm not sure, I don't remember.
Your quote was, "I know there were conversations about the phones. I just can't say if he said he was going to get rid of his phone or not," end
Right,
quote.
right.
Does that help refresh your recollection?
Yes,
So now as you sit here and you answer my question, did you and Brian Higgins have a conversation about your phones?
I don't remember having that conversation with Brian Higgins.
All right, let's shift gears. Before I shift gears, you're aware that Brian Higgins has also gotten rid of his phone, correct?
I am not aware of that until after the time you're talking about.
So, without qualifying your answer my question. As you sit here, you're aware that Brian Higgins has also gotten rid of his phone.
I know at some point Brian Higgins,
Yes or no, Mr. Albert?
did he?
Objection, Your Honor.
Can you answer that, yes or no, sir?
Yes.
Okay.
Now I'd like to shift gears and talk a little bit about Michael Proctor. Did Michael Proctor come into your home at 34 Fairview on January 29th?
Yes.
Michael Proctor? Let me rephrase the question. I want to make sure I'm not talking about Officer Lang, Officer Good.
Right.
Michael Proctor from the Massachusetts State Police. Did he come into your home on January 29th?
He conducted an interview with my wife, and I don't remember if it was the 29th or the 30th. That's what you're asking.
Wasn't that interview on February 3rd?
I feel like it was earlier than that, but it could have been February 3rd.
Okay. Presume for purposes of my question that it was February 3rd that Michael Proctor interviewed your wife. Then he would not have come into your home on the 29th, 30th, 31st, 1st, or the 2nd.
Right.
And you know from your training, obviously, as a first responder, the first 48 hours of an investigation are absolutely critical, correct?
Objection.
Do you know that, sir?
In that context, I don't.
Okay. Next question.
I mean, you're aware there's a TV show called First 48.
Objection, Your Honor.
Assistant.
Do you think the first 48 hours of a criminal investigation are critical?
Objection.
You do know that the longer you wait to properly investigate anything, the better chance that evidence can be manipulated or destroyed, right? You would agree with that.
Yes.
Did an investigator or any forensics team ever come into your house, ever, to photograph your entire home?
No, I wish they had.
Did an investigator, yeah, me too.
Objection, Your Honor.
Assistant.
Did an investigator or a forensics team ever come into your house to search for physical evidence?
No.
Did an investigator or a forensics team ever come into your house to search for trace evidence?
No.
Did an investigator or forensics team ever come into your house to take carpet samples, flooring samples from the basement, for instance?
No.
And to this day, you're aware that that's never happened.
Yes.
Sir, you were in the Marines before you were a police officer, correct?
Yes.
You're a combat veteran?
Yes.
How long were you in the Marine Corps?
4 years.
During the course of your Marine and military training, did you have any training in hand-to-hand combat?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
Yes.
In addition to your Marine training on the subject, did you also receive additional training from the police department through the academy or otherwise on basic hand-to-hand combat?
No.
So that's not part of the academy?
Not hand-to-hand combat, no.
Fighting techniques, use of batons, things of that nature?
Defensive tactics.
Defensive tactics. Okay, that's fighting, right?
Well, it's not hand-to-hand combat, no.
Okay, fair enough. I may be using the wrong word. It's physical, it's training on how to either defend yourself or control another person physically.
Yes.
I mean, they're not going to send you out there on the streets completely ill-equipped. They need to know that you know how to defend yourself and how to put somebody in custody that doesn't want to be in custody, correct?
Yes.
And that might include fighting.
It could, yes.
And beyond your Marine training and your police training, you're independently trained in techniques of fighting.
Have I boxed before? Yes.
Okay. And you've trained in boxing. It's not like you just walk up and smack a heavy bag, right?
You'd have to rephrase it.
You've trained. You're a trained boxer. You're a trained fighter.
I've boxed in the past, and I've trained to box, yes.
Yeah. I mean, I've hit a heavy bag,
Right.
but I'm not a trained fighter. You're a trained fighter.
All right, so there's an objection. You were standing, Mr. Lally.
Yes, sir.
Jurors, disregard that. Mr. Jackson, no comments, just questions, please.
Yes, Your Honor. In fact, your boxing skills were featured in a TV show that you were featured in as well, correct?
Objection.
I'll allow that.
No.
You were, in fact, no?
That they were featured in a show? No.
You were never shown on TV in a ring sparring with somebody?
I may have been shown training, but I don't think I was having a boxing match. No.
Okay, I wasn't suggesting that you were having like a paper. I was asking, is there a TV show that ever showed you in a ring boxing?
Well, that's not what you asked me, but if you're asking me that now, yes.
I'm asking you that now. I apologize. My questions are somewhat inartful.
Yes.
You understand the question now?
Yes.
And you have been shown, I use the word featured, you've been shown on television in a boxing ring,
Yes.
sparring.
I haven't seen the video in a while. I'm not sure if I was sparring.
If we can, Your Honor, with the court's permission, can we take a look at Exhibit 53?
Okay.
There's a clip starting at it's time of day 11:47 and 15 seconds to 11:48 and 35 seconds, maybe a minute and a half. Can you enhance that? Pause. Do you see the two men in the foreground?
Yes.
Who are those two men?
Looks like myself and Brian Higgins.
Does it look like yourself and Brian Higgins, or is that yourself and Brian Higgins?
Yes, it is.
Okay. We can go ahead and play that. Sorry. I've got one more clip to play, but I have a couple of questions, Your Honor. Would you?
Let's take it down and you can put the other one up after the questions.
Did you see what was displayed on that video?
Yes.
Had you seen that before?
Part of it, yes.
Is that what you and Mr. Lally went over in your preparation for your testimony?
I don't think that we went over it, but he showed me a quick clip of it.
When you say he showed you a quick look, did he ask you questions about it?
I don't think so, no.
Did you give him any answers about it?
No,
Any explanations?
no, just,
He showed you the clip and?
yeah, he just said, yeah, it looks like we were fooling around.
Okay, so you did make an explanation, given him an
Yeah,
explanation for
right, I said, I think we were just fooling around.
it. Okay, it's the same thing you told us this morning, right?
Right,
Just fooling around.
yeah, just having fun with my friends and hanging out and fooling around.
Absolutely. What were you doing? Describe what you were doing.
Having fun with my friends, hanging out, just being silly.
Okay. Describe physically what you were doing in the video.
I was playing around, sort of getting in a boxing stance.
Okay. Otherwise known as a fighting stance, correct?
Yeah, for a second, yes.
Okay. And what did Brian Higgins do when you got into a fighting stance?
It looked like he was kind of doing the same thing.
Got
We
into a
just,
fighting stance as well, correct?
yeah,
What were you two talking about? You tell you were talking, right?
yeah, I don't know what we were talking about. We were just being silly, fooling around, having fun.
Were you giving him advice on the proper way to get into a fighting stance or a boxing stance?
No,
You giving him some advice or some indicators about how to best position himself if someone is taking an aggressive stance against him?
no.
Is he telling you what he thought was a good technique for fighting or boxing?
I don't think it was that serious. We were just playing, fooling around.
But both of you were in fighting stances facing off against each other, correct?
Yeah, for a second or two.
And Mr. Higgins, you saw him bob his head and then start walking toward you like a boxer might, correct?
Yeah, yes.
And then you got down, pulled your the pant legs up, and you squatted down to indicate getting low, having low center of gravity, correct?
That's indicating being silly.
Okay. And
That's
then at
not.
some point, while you're being silly, you then faked a right punch toward him, correct?
I didn't notice that, but I'm not sure.
Can we take a look at the next part of this clip, which is at time of day 11:55 and 51 seconds. I'm sorry, 11:54 and 52 seconds. Pause it. And highlight it. Okay, there's several individuals crowded around a table. Can you describe where you are and where Mr. Higgins is?
Brian Higgins is the guy on the right with the hooded sweatshirt and the emblem on the back. I have a pointer. Do you want me to use it?
That'd be great. That'd be great.
So that's Brian Higgins, and that's me.
Okay, go ahead and play this. Pause. You see what you just did?
Yes.
What'd you do when you slapped his right arm?
What did I do?
What did you do? What are you doing?
It looks like I'm just being silly, fooling around.
Okay, I'm going to ask you for a little bit more physical description. What are you doing? Why are you grabbing him from behind?
I don't really know.
Is that a wrestling hold?
No,
Is
I
that
don't
a
think.
control hold?
No, I don't think so.
Is that some sort of a control hold that you've used in the past?
Bear hugging somebody? No. That's just a silly fooling around with my buddy.
Let's go ahead and play this. Stop it. You see what Mr. Higgins just did?
I did, yeah.
When you let him go, what did he do?
I don't know. He did some kind of, I don't know, he pretended to knee me or something.
Knee to the abdomen?
Yeah, I don't know if it made contact or not, but
Mr. Albert, I'm not suggesting by my questions that you two are actually in a fight.
right.
I'm asking what he's doing, does it seem to
Yeah, I don't,
You that he's playing like or practicing like techniques in fighting.
I don't know what his intent was. It looks like he's just fooling around, just like I was.
But if a grown man walks up to you, grabs you from behind, and puts a knee up to your solar plexus, that's probably not the same as a high five, right?
What is your question?
In other words, it looks like he's practicing some sort of fighting technique.
Practicing? That's not how I see that.
How would you describe it?
I would just describe it as him fooling around. We're in the bar together. We're good friends. And we're just being silly and fooling. That's all.
There's a number of people in that bar. You would agree with that?
Yes.
You see anybody else in that video at any time getting physical with one another?
Objection.
How much of this video have you actually watched?
Not much.
Okay, then let me ask a different question. From your memory of that night, who are the only two people in the bar that seem to be getting physical with one another?
Objection.
Can you answer that?
Sure. The only person I remember being physical with was fooling around with Brian.
Okay, but just a little bit longer. Almost finished. Let me take that down. Did you see the rest of that video?
Yes.
No question that you two are being friendly with one another, correct?
Yes.
You would agree with that.
Yes.
But there's also no question that of all the people in that bar, the only two people that appear to be imitating fighting are you and Mr. Higgins, correct?
In that video, yes.
And, is there another video? Do
Well, no, I just don't know what everybody else was doing in the bar.
you remember anybody else? You know, Julie Albert or
I don't remember.
Nicole getting into a scrap with someone?
No.
That was just you two, correct?
Yes.
Mr. Albert, this is minutes before everybody headed to your house at 34 Fairview, correct?
Yes.
Including John O'Keefe.
Yes.
Going back to the morning of January 29th, everyone had left your location. This is after you had already arrived, had a couple of beers, people started leaving. Everybody was gone from your location at about 1:45 a.m., maybe a little thereafter.
That seems right.
Caitlin being the last person to leave.
I believe so, yes.
What did you do to get ready for bed, to settle in?
I went upstairs and just lied in bed. The TV was on. I was just kind of watching TV.
You have a nightstand?
I do.
Is it on your side of the bed or Nicole's, or you have one on each?
We may have had one on each in that house.
Put your phone on your nightstand?
No.
Where'd you put your phone?
The phone was in bed with me.
So your testimony is that you get in bed after being on a road trip all day long, then at restaurants and at bars, then at a get-together at your house. And when you go to bed, you don't charge your phone?
No. I had the phone in the bed with me.
Why would you have the phone in bed?
We have 5 kids, and, if somebody was trying to call or if I needed to reach them, it's just kind of a habit I do. I put my reading glasses and my phone in bed with me.
And you don't charge it.
Sometimes I charge it, but not as a routine, no.
So you're worried about having your kids out. They might need to get a hold of dad. So you make sure that your phone is nice and close, but it can just run out of batteries.
Well, if it's dying, then I'll put it in the charger. But if not, I just leave it on the bed.
Well, what about that night?
That night, the phone was on the bed.
How do you know?
Well, I remember the phone being on the bed.
You have a specific recollection from 2.5 years ago about the state of the battery charge on your phone such that you know it was in your bed that night?
No, I just know as a routine, I keep my phone on the bed with me.
That's not what you just said. You just said it depends on whether or not the battery needs to be charged, whether or not you charge it.
My answer is that sometimes I, of course, charge my battery,
Of course you have.
but I sleep with the phone in my bed.
Every single night?
Yes, mostly every night.
I thought you just said 4 questions ago, it depends on whether or not the phone needs to be charged. Sometimes you keep it in the bed, sometimes you put it on the charger.
If the phone needs to be charged, I charge it, but I sleep in bed with my phone.
Mr. Albert, did your phone need to be charged that night?
I don't remember if it did, but I slept in bed with the phone.
You've been on a road trip most of the day, correct?
Yes.
You've been out at bars that night, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Is that yes?
Yes.
You weren't charging your phone. We saw the video. You weren't charging your phone at the bar.
Right.
So when you got home, clearly put your phone on a charger, didn't you?
But I did not.
So if your kids needed to get a hold of you, why would the phone being in your bed be any assistance to you instead of just on the charger at the nightstand?
That's just what I've always done. I just keep it in my bed. My wife does the same thing.
Okay. So now you've got 2 phones in the bed.
Yes.
Okay. And your glasses.
Yes.
Right between the 2 of you.
Yes.
Got it. Your phone have a ringer on it?
It does.
Ever thought about maybe turning the ringer on just in case the kids need to get a hold of you?
Sometimes it's on vibrate. Sometimes it's on ring. It depends.
Yeah. Depends on you. You just put it on ringer. Wouldn't that make more sense to go to bed, put it on ringer?
Objection.
Can you answer that?
All I can answer is that I sleep with my phone in my bed. That's just what I do.
And you know what I'm about to ask you, which is why you're saying you sleep with the phone in the bed, correct?
Objection, Your Honor.
All right,
I
so that's sustained, that's stricken. Come on, Mr. Jackson.
All right. What else is in the bed with you? Your keys, your wallet, any other pocket items?
No.
Just the phone and your glasses.
Yes.
And Nicole's phone,
Yes.
right between the 2 of you.
Usually, yes.
What about that night?
Yes.
Sir, did you make any phone calls after you went to bed between the hours of 1:45 a.m. and 6:30 a.m.?
Yes.
Who did you call?
I inadvertently called Brian Higgins.
What time?
I don't recall the exact time. After 2.
2:22 and 35 seconds. Does that sound familiar?
Yes.
Did you speak to Brian Higgins at any point between 1:45 a.m. and 6:30 a.m. that night?
No.
You say you inadvertently called him at 2:22 in the morning.
Yes.
How did you inadvertently call him?
Well, I don't know because it was inadvertent.
So I have to explain that.
Well, it's kind of like a butt dial.
I don't like it like that. All right. How long have you used an iPhone?
A long time.
As a matter of fact, you've been asked this question before, haven't you?
Yes.
Hence my question. You knew what I was going to ask you.
Objection, Your Honor.
I'll withdraw it. You indicated previously at a different hearing in June of 2023 that you were, quote, hanging out with your wife and you must have butt dialed Mr. Higgins, correct?
Yes.
At 2:22 and 35 seconds on January 29th, 2022, correct?
Yes.
You were asked how that could have happened, much like I just asked how that could have happened, right?
Yes.
And in that hearing, you said, quote, I'm not totally sure. Similar to what you just said here.
Yes.
And here you added that it could have been a butt dial.
Yes.
You were then called back to that same hearing, but at a different date, an ongoing hearing, right?
Yes.
That was in July of 2023, correct?
Yes.
You then changed your testimony and said, and I don't mean to be indelicate, but your testimony was then that you were in an intimate situation, I'll put it that way, with Nicole at the time. And that's how you butt dialed Brian Higgins, correct?
I don't believe I said that's how I butt dialed Brian Higgins.
That's the time.
I think I said there was a time frame that was close.
Okay.
So I didn't say that, no.
All right. What you said was you were in an intimate situation with Nicole at the time that the butt dial occurred, correct?
I'm not sure if you have something you can read me or show me.
Is it your testimony, let me just ask, is it
Sure.
your testimony that you and your wife were in the middle of some sort of sexual or intimate situation, and that's what caused you to butt dial the phone at that time at 2:22 a.m.?
Objection.
Assistant.
I'd like to show you an exhibit briefly. Oh, sorry. I have just one more.
Yes.
May I approach briefly?
Yes.
I'm not going to mark this to see this. Sir, I just want to find out if this refreshes your recollection. Look at lines 11 through 13, and then let me know when you're prepared.
Yes.
Thank you. May I approach?
Yes.
Does that refresh your recollection that you indicated at the other hearing that
Just the first part of that first. Does that refresh your recollection?
It does.
Okay, now you can.
Thank you, Your Honor. Isn't it true that at the other hearing, you indicated that at or around the 2:22 time frame, you and your wife were in bed together in an intimate situation?
Yes, around that time, I think it reads.
May I approach briefly, Your Honor?
Yes.
Well, with the court's permission, let me ask a couple of questions. Do you recall every call that you made between, say, 1:45 a.m. and the next couple of days? You remember every single one of those calls?
No.
Do you think it would refresh your recollection to look at a log of those calls during that time frame, if we're going to discuss those?
Yes.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
I may not even get to it. I'll show it to him. May I, Your Honor?
Yes.
That's 2 pages worth of documents. If it refreshes your recollection as we walk through this with the court's permission, let me know if you need to refer to that.
Right. I'm not going to be able to read it right now. I'll do it as you ask.
Correct, yeah. No, you don't need to read it right now. Just wanted to have it in front of you. By the way, you've seen these records before, correct? At the other hearing proceeding?
I've seen some records before, yes. I don't know if these exact records or not.
All right, and you've acknowledged that at least the first page, these are your phone records for the number ending 0888, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And these are call records from January 29th
Yes.
at 2:22 and 35 seconds in the morning, correct?
Yes.
Whose number ends in 5421?
According to this, it's Brian Higgins.
The call at 2:22 and 35 seconds appears to be 1 second in length. And that's from you to him, correct?
It says 1 second. I don't,
That would be the call, the initial call from you to him, the one that you claim is a butt dial. Is that right?
yes.
Did that call roll to voicemail and then you immediately hung up?
No, I don't recall if it, I don't know.
So according to you, it was a butt dial that went to his phone that somehow lasted 1 second.
Right.
Okay. Then there's a second call. If you look at the second line down, there's a second call at 2:22 and 52 seconds, 17 seconds later, correct?
Yes.
That call is actually from Brian Higgins to you, isn't it?
Yes.
And that call doesn't last 1 second. That call lasts 22 seconds, correct?
Yes.
Obviously, you know how long 22 seconds is.
What's that?
You know how long 22 seconds lasts.
Yes.
So according to your phone records, you placed a call to him, and then 17 seconds later, he returned a call to you that lasted 22 seconds. Correct?
That's what the records reflect, yes.
When you woke up in the morning, you obviously checked your phone. Did you not?
I don't know if I did.
Are you telling this jury that the call that came into your phone was a missed call, or did you answer it?
I did not answer it.
So it would have been a missed call.
I just know I didn't answer the call.
So it would have been a missed call.
Well, I don't know. I don't know that to be a fact. I just know I didn't answer the phone call.
Okay.
I missed the call. Yes.
That's what I mean.
Right.
You missed the call.
Right.
It did something on your phone and you just didn't answer it, according to you.
Right.
Okay. And again, you're using an iPhone.
Yes.
If you butt dialed Brian Higgins and he called you back and you didn't answer, you would have a very bright red missed call in your call log, correct?
Objection.
Do you know that?
I don't know that.
Have you ever missed a call on your iPhone before?
Yes.
And when you go to your call logs, it says missed call in red, correct? If your wife calls you, your kids call you.
I don't think I've ever noticed that it's in red, and so no, I don't know that to be true.
You're certainly alerted to the fact that it's a missed call, that you've missed a call, correct?
If I were to go back and look at my incoming calls, it would probably say missed call, yes.
And of course, if we asked you to show us your phone and show that that was a missed call, you couldn't do that because you've gotten rid of that phone, correct?
Objection.
Assisting.
Did you tell anyone in law enforcement that next day that oddly Brian Higgins was calling you at 2:22 a.m. and you missed a call?
No, I wasn't aware of that call.
If a call went to voicemail on your phone, you would get that voicemail, correct? You'd get notice of it.
If I checked my voicemails and there was a voicemail, I would get it, yes.
That's my question. Did you get a voicemail from Brian Higgins?
No.
Which means he didn't leave a voicemail,
Right.
which would suggest that you answered the call, correct?
Objection.
Assisting.
Let's talk for a second about this butt dial. You went to bed and you closed and your phone was you closed and locked your phone, correct?
Yes.
I don't want you to tell me what the passcode is, Mr. Albert. That's important. I want to make sure you understand. I'm not asking you to tell me what the passcode is, but at the time, was your passcode a 4-digit or 6-digit passcode?
4, I believe.
And that locks the phone when it's not in use, correct?
The phone will lock after it's not used for a while. I don't know the exact timing of it.
You're exactly right, Mr. Albert. I said it backward. The phone automatically locks. You have to use the 4-digit passcode to unlock it, correct?
Well, no, I also have face recognition too, so it can open that way without any passcode.
We'll get to that in a second. The phone locks when it's not in use, correct?
Yes.
And then to make a call, once you open the phone, either through facial recognition or through the passcode, then you have to tap on the phone app in order to open up the phone app, correct?
Yes, I believe so.
Once you open up that phone app, there are only 3 ways that you can initiate a phone call. Favorites, recents, and contacts, correct?
I don't know that.
If you tap on a contact, that opens up the contact page or the contact app, right? You know that.
Yes.
It's where all your contacts are.
Yes.
They're alphabetized.
Yes.
You have to either scroll through or do a search and type in the name of the person you're looking for.
Right.
You didn't do that, did you?
No.
If you tap favorites, if you have favorites listed, there's a list of favorites. You have to scroll through and tap the one that you want to call, correct?
I think so, yes. I'm not totally aware of that, but
And if you tap on recents, those are the recent calls that you've had, you've either received or made. And of course, you have to tap on the contact in the recents list that you want to call, right?
yes.
And then, of course, you would have to tap again to end whatever call you initiated, right?
Yes.
I mean, you don't just say goodbye. You got to say goodbye and hang up. You got to tap it to hang it up.
Right.
So would you agree, from a closed and locked phone, there is no physical mechanism by which a person can hit one button and make a phone call?
Objection.
Sustained.
Are you saying that from your closed and locked phone, you inadvertently tapped your phone one time and that initiated a butt dial to Brian Higgins?
Objection.
Is that what you're saying?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Tell me what you're saying. How
I
did you butt dial Brian Higgins?
I don't know.
22 in the morning.
I don't know that the phone was locked. I could have been looking through my phone. I butt dial people often and make inadvertent calls. I could have hit a last call from him by accident, thus calling his phone.
So you were actually awake and on your phone at the time.
I was awake and I could have been looking at my phone.
So, Mr. Albert, how'd you miss the call 17 seconds later?
Well, my wife was in the room with me and we were hanging out and I never got the second call from him. So I'm not sure what time he called. I'm not sure what I was doing at that second, but I don't know.
But it didn't go to voicemail.
Well, I didn't get a voicemail from him. No.
So it didn't go to voicemail.
Well, I don't know that don't know that it didn't go to voicemail. I just know that I didn't receive a voicemail from him.
So if you, okay,
I mean, we're all guessing here, but I mean, he could have called voicemail.
we're not all guessing
Well,
here.
you are, because you don't know if he left a voicemail or didn't, or at least got voicemail and then hung up the phone.
I think one of us is trying to guess.
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained. You know what? I want to see Counselor sidebar for just a second, please.
Are you now saying that your phone was open and unlocked at 2:22 a.m.?
I'm saying it could have been.
Are you saying that it was?
I don't know.
Mr. Albert, you were the only person that was there with your phone. Was the phone unlocked and did you make a call?
Objection.
Can you answer that?
Sure, I don't know.
And 17 seconds later, again, presuming you're the only person there with the phone, did you answer that call?
I did not.
You would agree that in order to answer a call, you can't just look at your phone to answer it. It has to be swiped physically, correct?
I think you can hit, I think it comes up green or red for the phone call, whether it's locked or not, and you can hit green.
Right, but you have to hit a button.
Yes.
Did you hit a button to answer a call from Brian Higgins?
I
I don't mean to talk over you. Please let me finish my question. Did you hit a button to answer a phone call from Brian Higgins at 2:22 and 52 seconds in the morning?
Not that I know of.
You do know that that phone will not answer on its own, correct?
Yes.
And simply touching your butt will not answer that phone. It has to be swiped.
No, I don't think it has to be swiped.
You would agree that a 22-second call from Brian Higgins had to have been answered by you. Isn't that right?
Objection.
Do you agree with that?
No,
Did Nicole, who else was in the room?
just myself and my wife.
And Chloe.
Yes. But Chloe's not a human, so it was myself and my wife.
By process of elimination, Nicole didn't answer that call, did she?
No,
Chloe, the non-human, didn't answer that call, did she?
no.
So who had to have answered the call, sir?
Objection.
Can you answer that?
I don't remember answering that call. Could have hit the phone by accident, causing it to answer.
Okay.
Okay, let's move on from this, Mrs. Jackson.
Your Honor, if I could have one or two more questions.
One more question.
Now your testimony is you could have answered the call, correct?
No, my testimony is that I don't know. You're asking me how it could have answered, and I'm trying to answer your question.
At a prior hearing in June of 2022, you were asked this exact question, and you answered, quote, yeah, it's only possible that it's me, end quote, correct?
I don't recall answering that way, but I'm not sure.
And you were also asked, after being confronted with these records, quote, I guess I could have talked to him, meaning Mr. Higgins, correct?
I don't-
Allow this, and this is,
I don't recall saying that, no.
let's move on.
Did you have any conversation with Brian Higgins about a 2:22 a.m. phone call?
That next morning, while everything was going on, I mentioned to Brian that I may have butt dialed you last night. Sorry about that.
Did the two of you agree that you were going to both say those calls were butt dials in order to cover up those calls?
Objection.
You can answer that.
We did not say that.
But let's be clear, since then and now, you've gotten rid of your phone, correct?
I upgraded my phone, yes.
And since then and now, Brian Higgins has gotten rid of his phone, and you're aware of that as well.
Yes.
By the way, you indicated that you were awakened in the morning by Jen McCabe about 6:30, correct?
Yes.
And when you woke up, you said you grabbed your phone to make a call. Is that right?
No.
Isn't it true that you grabbed your phone and made a call at 7:20 in the morning?
Yes. But that's not when I was awoken by my sister-in-law.
Sorry, that wasn't my question. After you're awake and you're up, you
Right.
started making calls.
Right.
My question is, what was the first call you made at 7:20?
Can I look at this?
If that refreshes your recollection, with the court's permission.
Yes.
At 7:20, I called Brian Higgins.
Mr. Albert, you have 6 siblings and 5 kids, right?
Yes.
You have in-laws, cousins, huge family, correct?
Yes.
But on the morning you find out that John O'Keefe is laying dead or dying on your lawn, the first call you made at 7:20 was to Brian Higgins. Is that right?
Yes.
The same person you had a call with, or at least the logs indicate you had a call with at 2:22 in the morning, correct?
Yes.
During that 7:20 a.m. call, did you two discuss the 2:22 a.m. calls?
No.
Thought you just said that you told him, oh, I think I may have butt dialed.
Yeah, that was later in the morning when he came to the house.
Not on that 7:20 a.m. call.
No.
What did you talk about on that 7:20 a.m. call?
I informed him of what was going on at my house. We were out the night before, and I thought it was important for him to know what had happened.
Mr. Albert, I have a couple of more questions about the phones, or the phone usage that morning and the day, throughout the day. You called Brian Higgins at 7:20 a.m. for 1 minute and 56 seconds, correct?
Yes.
Brian Higgins called you at 7:30 for 5 minutes and 47 seconds.
Yes.
You called Brian Higgins at 7:57 a.m., spoke for 12 minutes and 33 seconds.
Yes.
You then called your brother, Kevin Albert, at 9:40 a.m. and spoke for 1 minute and 5 seconds.
Yes.
Chief Berkowitz called you at 9:50 a.m. and left a voicemail. Is that right?
He didn't leave me a voicemail, but I think he called me.
You called Chief Berkowitz back at 9:54, 4 minutes later, and spoke for 4 minutes and 40 seconds, right?
Yes.
You called Jen McCabe at 11:30 a.m. Is that right?
Yes.
Jim McCabe called you back at 12:20 p.m. You spoke for 7 minutes and 52 seconds.
Yes.
You called Kevin Albert again at 2:01 in the afternoon and spoke for 8 minutes.
Yes.
You called Kevin Albert at 6:45. I'm sorry. You called Brian Higgins at 3:24 p.m. and spoke for 6 minutes and 5 seconds. Is that right? And if it refreshes your recollection, there's a second page, second log. You'll turn your attention to the 3:24 p.m. time frame.
Trying to find it.
Take your time.
What time are you referring to?
3:24 p.m.
I see it. Yes.
And there's a second call. You call Brian Higgins at 6:12 p.m. and speak for 1 minute and 7 seconds, right?
Yes.
And then the third one on that page, you called Brian Higgins at 6:35 p.m. spoke for 10 minutes and 12 seconds, correct?
Yes.
Turning back to your call logs, you called Kevin Albert at 6:45 on the next on that same day, spoke for about 16 minutes.
Yes.
Then on the next day, January 30th, you called Chief Berkowitz and spoke for 1 minute and 6 seconds.
Yes.
And the following day, you spoke with Jim McCabe, who called you at 8:04 p.m., correct?
Yes.
And finally, Chief Berkowitz called you at 1:48 p.m. on February 1st, right?
Yes.
3 days later, you spoke again to Brian Higgins at 8:48 a.m. Is that right?
Yes.
The subject of these calls, Mr. Albert, were all about the fact that John O'Keefe was found dying on your yard, on your lawn, on January 29th, 2022. Isn't that right?
I don't know the subject of all these calls, no.
You had to have been talking about that event.
Of course, it was a horrible situation that was going on. Everybody was distraught, and there were a lot of phone calls. This call log doesn't encompass all the phone calls.
No, it doesn't.
There were a lot of phone calls being made to a lot of people because of this horrible situation.
And the point is, Mr. Albert, those many calls that you've just described, especially as they pertain to Brian Higgins, Jim McCabe, Kenny Berkowitz, your brother Kevin Albert, were those many calls an effort to get stories straight at the time?
No, absolutely not.
Were those many calls an effort?
I'm going to interrupt you, jury. We're going to send the jury out. Chris, actually, why don't we take the license? I'll see counsel outside that.
Court, all right, please.